Hey beautiful people, welcome back to a new video on our channel Read Travel Become. In this video, I'm going to recommend some very unique books. Why are they unique? So imagine you are in a room full of people and you start a conversation with people. You want to be the most interesting person in the room, right? So generally the conversation happens around, the generic books, movies, TV shows that you are seeing, politics, economics, all those general things. But if you read any of these books, like these books which I'm going to recommend in this video, after you read them, you would be the most interesting person in the room, hands down, because the subject of these books are very eccentric, they're very erratic, and not only they would give you that upper hand of talking about something very unique, they would also make others think about the topic and research more about the topic. These books made me feel that, and I just can't stop talking about these books with my friends, even if they think that I'm geeking out and stuff. But these books are different. I would say they're unique and unputdownable for sure. So make sure you watch the video till the end. You may never know which thought or fact may resonate with you and change the course of your life. So let's get started. The first book is a very different self-help book. Now, why is it a self-help book? It's called Poe for Your Problems. If you don't know who Edgar Allan Poe is, you must research about him. He's one of the most influential classic writers. He's considered there among like Dickens, Hemingway, all of those people. He's a very influential writer, and he has written a lot of dark academia. His overall outlook towards life was very existential. He was a horror writer. He's written a lot of horror novels. He's written a lot of gothic novels. His whole vibe is like that. And this writer, Catherine Bab Muguia, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. So this writer has taken a toss around this whole concept of Edgar Allan Poe. So he has talked about self-help, but through Poe's perspective. What if you are a very cynical person? What if you are a very dark person? And that's how you are navigating life, right? You are just accepting that yes, the world is all gone to hell and everything is bad, and how you navigate your life then. The writer has talked about that, and so it's surprisingly a funny book, right? It talks about deep philosophy in a very funny way. I just found it to be very quirky, and there are great chapters in here. They have talked about how to solve problems, just like go away from the problems, that kind of a philosophy. It's a fun read, right? It's one of those books which is funny to read, fun to read, and also has a lot of depth in it, I feel. So yeah, this would be my first recommendation. I was just randomly scouting through the library and I found this book. The next interesting book which you can read is a book about Greek mythology. I get a lot of questions, and many people even search about this, like which is the best way to know about Greek philosophy, about Greek stories. Just like India has Mahabharata, Ramayana, which are very interesting, and we know all of these stories. Similarly, the Greeks also have Homer and Odyssey as these two very big sagas, these two very big insane like stories. There are multiple plots within it. There are multiple short stories about kings, about gods, about demigods, Poseidon, Apollo, Athena, the Mount Olympus, all of those, the Percy Jackson vibe, all of those things. So many people ask me what is the great starting point to know about all of these stories firsthand and in an easy way, because Homer and Odyssey are frankly a bit daunting to read. So you can pick up Mythology by Edith Hamilton. So I naturally, whenever I want to find anything about Greek or anything about pop culture, I go to Reddit, and I found this book through Reddit where it was recommended that Edith Hamilton's Greek stories are the starting point if you want to know more about Greek stories. It's divided into some parts. It's divided into the myths. It's divided into the Trojan War. It's divided into the stories of adventure, stories of love, stories before the Trojan War, the gods, the earliest heroes, all of these things in very easy way. So they are small, they are short stories, and they are just like short adventure stories, short fairy tales, if you could say that. So yeah, this can be a good starting point if you want to know more about where all of these Greek stories came from. The next on the list is probably one of 2024's favorite reads of mine. I'm thinking of making a separate video because I've recently finished reading the book, and I'm just blown away by how well the book is written and how pacey the book is, how visual the book is. There's a lot to talk about this book. I think I'll make a separate video. The book is The Wager by David Gran. I think David Gran is one writer which I'm just obsessed with this year. I've read The Lost City of Z. I've read The Killers of the Flower Moon, and this is his third book that I read, The Wager, which hands-on was the best read for me because I really love ship adventures. I really love those pirates finding a treasure in the seas, especially during the exploration era of His Majesty's service, the British exploration ships that used to go out and find out about the Spanish and Portuguese treasure, if you resume. There is a lot to pack in, but David Grant just makes it seem so easy, and it basically reads like a very, very good thriller, right? It's pacey, it's got characters. He's not just talking about history. All of these books are actual history books, but I just wish I had a history professor like David Grant. You know, he makes history so interesting to read about. Like I want to dig deeper into all of these topics, right? Of how this explorations happened. The Voyager is about a ship called Voyager which landed on South America. It was all dilapidated. The soldiers inside, the sailors inside, not soldiers, were, you know, all stinky. They were all malnourished. They had a horrible time just passing through the Atlantic, and people just celebrate them that, hey, you came from a shipwreck, and you know, let's celebrate you. You survived the sea and stuff. They're hailed as heroes basically by the local people. And suddenly, after a few months, another ship lands in the same peninsular region of Chile, and these people basically say that the first ship that came, Voyager, they're not actually heroes. They are mutineers. They are basically people who rebelled against the crown. They are very bad people. And if you have read The Lord of the Flies, you must be knowing what I'm talking about. But there is a whole but afterwards there is a whole trial which happens around these two ships, people of these two ships, and there's a lot of conversation around different nationalities, different races, different countries, and the ship adventure. I just can't put it in one box. You know, there's so much to unpack from this, but I'll stop talking now because there's a lot to talk about this book. Yeah, I basically love this book, and it's a great conversation starter if you want to be the most interesting person in a room. The next on the list is not exactly a book, it's a magazine, but I remember spending like hours and hours just looking at this magazine. It was Nat Geo's 100 best pictures of all time. So if you can get your hands on this particular copy, I found it in a library again. You know, I'm just thinking that, you know, by just going to the library, I'm finding this niche, I'm finding these little unheard books also, which are very profound and not talked about. This magazine is one such magazine which hits the right spot, you know. So Nat Geo has basically combined all of their best pictures of all time, whatever pictures their photographers have taken, and every picture conveys a story. Every picture, if you look more and more at it, you're just immersed into the culture. Let's say there is some native Indians, there's some native tribe who have been photographed in their element. There is a historical event which has been photographed. There's a little girl somewhere in a war which has been photographed. There's a rare animal who is doing something out of the box that has been captured. All of these pictures, you know, are very immersive in nature. Like they suck you into the world, and you want to know more about that picture. You want to know more about that surrounding in which that picture was taken. The pictures are very expressive. They're very, you know, they read like a story basically. I don't know if I'm the only one who has experienced that, but these pictures speak like a story within themselves. So if you are interested by this whole idea, some of these pictures can be great talking points. Because see, the cover picture is a very, very popular picture, if you might know about this. There's also a picture of Jane Goodall with the orangutan which she fostered. So some of the pictures are very, very powerful. So yeah, you can pick up this magazine. The next book on the list is The Sun, Maiden and the Crescent Moon. This is a collection of Siberian folk tales. Now Siberia is a place which is frozen. It's one of the coldest inhabited places on earth, and the most important part for people there is telling stories to each other, surviving on the stories, making stories interesting, because that's their way of entertainment. This book is a collection of all the folk tales of the local people in Siberia. It's interesting to just know about how we are the same people who are living on Earth, but our perspective of looking at things, looking at the same things, how different it can be. So it has again got fairy tales. It's got adventures about the sun, moon, characters, local characters. You know, it's just a fun read. You know, it's one of those things which are great conversation starters about, hey, do you know about this Siberian folk tale in which this happened? So I like this book to be handy. It's just entertaining. It just gives you a deeper perspective into how people live in cold areas and how stories can actually be a source of warmth for all of these local people. So I felt that after reading this book. And the last book on this list is The Immense World by Ed Yong, which I have made a separate video. Again, that book is also one of my favorite books I read this year, because it just opened my brain in multiple ways, and it just changed the way I look at animals. Just the other day, I found a raccoon just passing the road, and it reminded me of how differently they look look at the world. All the animals have different senses, they have different ways of perception of how reality is being perceived by these animals. It's just very fascinating to read. And the writer has divided the book into many chapters about touch, sense, pain, light, hearing, smell, all of these sensory attributes. So yeah, it's one of those classics, I feel, which I will keep on reading. It's not one of those books which you sit down and read at one go, but it's one of those books which you can keep around and just keep reading stories here and there, keep reading facts here and there, which can be great to conversate with someone, you know. So yeah, that was the list, guys. Please let me know in the comment section what books you guys read, and do subscribe to the channel. We are in the process of making great videos. I am reading great books. I'm just taking some time to collect all of the ideas together and present it in front of you guys in the best way possible. So thank you so much for tuning in with me, like always. And yeah, that's all for this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.